Section 2. In regards to temperature control, we use the process of cooking to destroy the organisms and pathogens that may be present in foods. Different types of animal proteins require a different amount of heat to destroy the bacteria or pathogens that may cause us harm. We determine the best amount of heat to apply by using internal temperatures. The temperatures listed are the temperatures that different kinds of meats must reach in order to kill the harmful bacteria. For example, beef steaks must reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit to be properly cooked. Beef roast must reach 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 minutes, and ground beef must reach 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Pork chops must reach 145 degrees Fahrenheit, pork roast must reach 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 4 minutes, and ground pork requires 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Poultry must reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit, while eggs for immediate service must reach 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Eggs that will be hot held must reach 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Seafoods and fish must reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit for fillets and 155 degrees for ground or minced products. Wild game will need to reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Any foods such as leftovers to be hot held must reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Any fish, meat, or poultry that will be used as stuffing must reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. This also applies to stuffed foods such as stuffed pasta, stuffed fish, stuffed meat, or stuffed poultry. There are 4 approved methods for thawing TCS, or time temperature controlled for safety foods. The first approved method is to thaw the food in a cooler or refrigerator that is maintained at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Pictured is an example of a non-approved method for thawing. TCS foods cannot be left to thaw at room temperature. This can potentially lead to an incidence of foodborne illness. The second approved method is thawing foods as part of the cooking process. Frozen foods can be thawed as part of the cooking process as long as the temperature is met to destroy pathogens. The third approved method is to thaw foods in the microwave. However, if a microwave is used to thaw foods, the foods must be cooked immediately after microwaving with no interruptions in the prep and cooking process. The fourth and final approved method for thawing is to submerge frozen food under running water at a temperature of 70 degrees Fahrenheit or below. To use this method, you must ensure that there is a small stream of water running over the food product to float off any loose particles. Any thawed portions of the ready-to-eat foods must not rise above a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Thawed portions of raw animal foods that require cooking must not be above 41 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 4 hours, including the time the food is exposed to running water and the time needed for preparation, or the time it takes under refrigeration to lower the food to 41 degrees Fahrenheit. In the picture on this page, we can see some shrimp that has been left in a tub of water to thaw. This is an example of an improper thawing method. Running water must be present to remove any particles that become loose from thawing so as not to contaminate the food and potentially cause foodborne illness. Cooling cooked food quickly is a necessary process to limit the growth of pathogen in foods. To cool foods quickly and efficiently, there are a few steps you can take. Reducing the size of food helps to cool the food faster. Cutting large foods into smaller pieces, such as a large roast or turkey, will cool foods much faster. You should also divide foods into smaller, shallower containers. An example of this may be to separate a large pot of chili or soup into smaller pans. You should use containers that facilitate heat transfer and keep them loosely covered. Using rapid cooling equipment such as blast chillers or freezers is also helpful. You can also effectively cool foods quickly by using ice baths or ice paddles, or even by using ice as an ingredient in the food. Properly cooling foods must occur in your food establishment to prevent foodborne illness. Bacteria and pathogens grow rapidly when foods are in certain temperature zones between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit, known as the temperature danger zone. To address this, we have to cool hot foods in a reasonably swift time frame. The food code states that cooked foods have to be cooled from 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within a maximum of 2 hours. Foods then have to be cooled from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees or below within 4 hours. This creates a total of 6 hours for foods to be cooled from 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Note, however, that the critical cooling from 135 degrees to 70 degrees must be done within the first 2 hours. If you cannot cool hot foods from the 135 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, you can either reheat the food to 165 degrees Fahrenheit and try another method of cooling, or you can discard the food. TCS foods, or time temperature controlled for safety foods that are reheated for hot holding, must be reheated to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds within 2 hours. If the reheated food has not reached 165 degrees for 15 seconds within the 2 hours, you must discard it. When you are holding TCS foods, you must protect the foods from contaminants. An example of this may be a sneeze guard or covering. The internal temperatures of food should be checked at least every 4 hours. Any hot food should be held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit, and cold food should be held at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. Any equipment used in your facility should be able to hold foods at the proper temperature. Food should not be stored directly on ice beds unless it is whole fruits and vegetables or raw cut wrapped fruits and vegetables. Next, we will discuss what the danger zone is, how foods get into the danger zone, and why we want to keep foods out of the danger zone. The danger zone is the zone between 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember that those temperatures are the maximum temperature for cold-held foods and are minimum for hot-held foods. The zone between our hot and cold holding temperatures are called the danger zone because it is in this zone that bacteria and pathogen growth is the most efficient. Bacteria and pathogens grow quickly in this zone, and it is for this reason that we try to get food out of the danger zone as quickly as possible and then keep it out of the danger zone. In this diagram, you can see how foods enter and exit the danger zone. This diagram shows 3 examples of different foods and their relation to the danger zone. They are the no-cook, same-day, and complex process. We will talk about each one. In the no-cook process, we have an example of a sandwich that contains ready-to-eat fillings. These can be foods such as cold tuna sandwiches, canned chicken, or lunch meats. In this example, we are using a food that starts cold at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. This could be your tuna, canned chicken, or lunch meat. The food is assembled cold, meaning that there is no heating or cooking process. The food is held cold at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below and is served cold at 41 degrees or below. In this example, the food never leaves the maximum cold holding temperature of 41 degrees or below, so it does not make any trips through the danger zone. In the same-day process, we have a hamburger as our example. The hamburger patty starts as the cold food at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Then the patty is properly cooked through the danger zone to its appropriate internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. It is then prepared hot and held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above and then served hot. In this example, we went on 1 trip through the danger zone when we cooked our cold hamburger patty to the appropriate internal temperature. In the complex process, we have catered meals or hot-held leftovers. In this example, the food starts cold at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. The food is then cooked through the danger zone to its appropriate internal temperature. The food is properly cooled and stored, which means the food will go from 135 degrees hot holding temperature to the 70 degrees within a 2-hour maximum, and then from 70 degrees to 41 degrees or below with an additional 4-hour maximum. After the food is stored in cold holding, the food will be reheated through the danger zone to 165 degrees Fahrenheit in under 2 hours, and then hot held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit and served hot. In this example, we made 3 trips through the danger zone. The first trip was the initial cooking process from cold to hot. Once the food was cooked, we made our second trip through the danger zone as we cooled our cooked food down to be stored cold. Our third and final trip to the danger zone was when we used our cold stored food and reheated it to hot hold and serve.